Why hello, so I thought I would talk about this most recent backpacker graph, which shows that of the PCT last year there were 34 people who attempted to through hike it, and 12.9% finished. 12.9% out of 3,934 people. Wow, that's amazing. I thought, 25%, 30%, no, 12.9%. The AT was 26.7% of people who actually got to Katahdin, and of the CDT, 29.8. 275 people tried. So, but of the PCT, 3,900 folks tried. So, why is that 12.9%? So I spent the last day going over math and endless numbers. It's super variable. So many things can make it go wrong. But I come up with this. It's a long way, and you don't have much time to do it. So it's 2,650 miles, top to bottom. Oddly enough, it's only about 1,000 miles as the crow flies. Wow, that's a lot of going back and forth. The I-5 freeway, which pretty much runs along, it's 1,300 miles. So it's almost double of what the I-5 freeway is. So it's a long way, and you don't have much time to do it. Most people are doing it in about 5 months. So that's 150 days. If you divide 2,650 by 150 days, turns out to be about 18 plus miles every day. So Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week, for 5 months, you walk 18 miles. Doesn't matter about snow, doesn't matter about getting routed off, 18 miles every day. So that works out to be about 123 miles per week, and that's a real common number, 123, 125 to 130. People have got to be able to do that every week somehow. If you're doing 35s, you don't need to hike so many days, 40s. If you're doing like a total of 17 miles a day, then you're going to have to skip zeros to make that happen. Somehow people need to get that 125 miles a week in. So part two of that is when we hike, we don't hike every day. People might hike Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Maybe Saturday they take a Nero, which is maybe 1/2 of what they usually hike. And then maybe Sunday they take off as a zero. So it works out to be 123, 125 miles per week, works out to be about 22 miles per day if you do that schedule. Maybe 24 miles per day. So Monday you walk 24, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday you walk 24. Maybe Saturday you walk 12 miles into town or such, and Sunday you take off. So that works out to be about 125 miles per week, 22 to 24. That's some hiking over 5 months. So maybe if you can do 25 miles 5 days a week and then 12 on Saturday, that gets you about to 137 miles per week. So you kind of see that you're going to have to average in a bunch of round numbers. That's why it makes it difficult, because how many zeros are you going to take? What kind of snow closures? What kind of fire closures? So it's super variable. But basically, you got to keep that 125 miles a week up somehow. So there's a couple days that are interesting to look at. One is the PCT trail days. That occurs in Cascade Locks, and it's about August 16th. So whoever setting that up is thinking that the main PCT through hiker bubble, is going to be at Cascade Locks on August 16th. Washington State's about 500 plus miles. It takes about 4 weeks to walk there at about 125 miles a week. There comes that number again, 125. So they're thinking that most people are going to be at the Canadian border by September 15th. So that you kind of start with that and work backwards of when you would need to start that to get up to this point by August 16th to give you the best chance of success. So the second interesting date is the annual Day Zero PCT that occurs at Lake Morena around April 20th. So that kind of gives you an idea that they're probably thinking you're going to start on April 19th because it's a one-day walk to Lake Morena, and you're going to finish on September 15th. So that's five months. Now, people can start earlier, but they're limited by a couple things. One is the Sierras. If the Sierras weren't there, it'd be so much easier. That really gums up everything because you can't get there too soon or you're going to be up to your waist in snow. You can't get there too late because then you'd be doing 40 miles a day to get to here on that time. So that really throws a wrench into the whole system. So the second snow place that you're limited by is the North Cascades. After September 15th, it's dicey going north of Snohomish Pass. I lived in the Northwest for about 20 years, And basically July 15th to September 1st, beautiful, sunny every day, 85 degrees, perfect. That's when most tourists come. But after September 1st, it's real dicey. It usually starts raining around then, and by September 15th, it's pretty rainy. Now in the mountains, it's even worse. So if you're in here in the first 2 weeks of September, it's going to be rainy. It might be sunny, but probably not. If you're in the North Cascades after September 15th, it's going to be rain and maybe snow. There have been a few times when just folks have gotten nice sunny weather all the way up, but I wouldn't count on it. So it's best to be here on September 15th, not here. so you got to somehow folks have to get those miles in, and that's why it's hard. Because I think one of the reasons is people never really comprehended how far it is and how little time you got to do it. So the other complication is, okay, you walk 123 miles a week. People don't do that from the very start, right? Nobody walks in the door doing 24 miles a day from the border, right? Well, most people don't. There are some superstars who do that, but we're talking about normal humans. So people start maybe at 15 miles per day and then go up to 17, 18, 19, maybe 20 when they get up to just Kidney Meadows. But as soon as I hit that snow, it depends. If it's dry, you can maybe keep that up. If it's 3 feet of snow, you're going to be post-holing, and maybe people can go down to 10 miles a day. Wow, so that puts a big damper on your speed when your best efforts are giving you 10 miles. Maybe 12 to 15 is a decent number. When we went through here 2 years ago, it was pretty dry, and we were doing about 12 to 13 miles per day. You got to remember you're going up 4,000 or 5,000 foot passes here too, and the passes can be super icy even in the middle of summer. It takes some time you just can't run up there safely. So that's the problem with this, is it can be dangerous too. So I know that in books like Yogi, they recommend to not even get here before June 1st or maybe June 15th. And really July 15th is probably a better time. But then again, it puts you so far behind. Yeah, you walked faster, but you can't make up those miles. And I've often had the thought, well, what if you had two people race each other here? One starts when the snow is a foot deep, and one starts 3 weeks later when the snow has pretty much melted. And that as the one person goes north, just the person on the later trip will catch up because he's got a lot of dirt on the trail and not snow. So that would be an interesting thing. I don't think I want to try that out. So the next thing that slows you up in the Sierras is river crossings. If there's too much snow, the water gets deeper. If there's less snow, the water gets more shallow. So that is a real deal. And if you're there in too early and the rivers are very swollen, it can be dangerous. If you're 6'8" and 300 pounds, you're going to have a better time. If you're 5'2" and 98 pounds soaking wet, it's going to be more dangerous. So that will slow you up too. So of all the reasons that people get hurt or even die on the Crest Trail, falls are number one. They fell off the trail, cliff, snow. Number two is drowning. Oddly enough, there's been no deaths from snakes ever. There's been not one bear that's caused someone to die. In the whole history of the PCT, not one person's died from bear attack. So that's falls and drowning. So those are two things to really keep in mind when you're trying to go through these kind of more dangerous snowy areas. There's been a lot of rescues up out of here because people are like here on October 1st and they keep going. And then it's October 12th and they get 3 feet of snow, and then somebody pushes the alarm, and then the search and rescue have to go try to find them. So let's recap. It's a long way. You don't have much time to do it. And people get so bogged down by both ramping up their speed to here, and then by the time they get to a decent speed, you get so slowed down by trying to basically slug your way through the just Sierras. And people think that the snow stops around the border of Yosemite. No, it kind of keeps going. On the West Lake Tahoe, that's at 8,000 feet. That's where the ski resorts are. West of Truckee, that's at 8,000 feet too. So it really doesn't get below 6,000 until you hit Sierra City. So that's about 450 miles from there to there. And maybe you could do 100 miles a week. We're doing 123 here. And maybe if you're doing really good, you can get this done in about 5 weeks. 4 weeks if it's dry, 6 weeks if there's snow. So you're by the time you get to here, you're so far behind the 8 ball from just being slow to start and getting bogged down here that you just got to do 30s in order to make it to trail days by August 16th. That's why I think mainly most folks can't achieve success in one summer. But the good news is that when you get here, Northern California is not too bad. There's some climbing, and Oregon is a freeway. So people can easily do 25, 26, 27, 20, 29, 30 or more through Oregon. So you can catch up some, but you've got to be a really strong hiker to do that. It takes a lot. It's pretty not that easy to do 30s every day. And so I don't think a lot of people are prepared for that. And I think that's because the PCT looks very romantic in YouTube videos. And maybe I've done this too, where it's so beautiful and everybody's having fun, and there's like a little bird lands on your shoulder and says, "Hi, isn't this great?" People are dancing in YouTube videos and singing and just having fun. so it's a very romantic thing on a YouTube video, but in real life it's not that romantic. You hurt a lot at the end of the day. At the end of 30, your feet are just like crying. You stink. It's cold. God, it's 28, 29 degrees. People got to be okay with that. It's hot. It's 99 degrees. Sometimes on the same day, it'll be freezing cold and just super hot. So that's the just physical part. It's also a very mental place. Solitude. People aren't used to being alone for days. I mean, there's kind of a just hiker bubble that goes up. So those guys have company. But if you're outside that bubble, then you're alone. I've gone for a couple of days without seeing anybody. So I've just heard it's really crowded. I'd love to see how many hikers are still on the trail right here. That would be a really interesting number. My guess is probably half are gone. So folks just weren't ready for this kind of abuse. And part of that abuse is you just have to, as they say, embrace it. There's no way around it. You're gonna hurt. It's gonna be painful. Yes, it's beautiful. Yes, it's home to me. I love it. There's not a day I don't love it. But there's a lot of days where it's incredibly painful too. So you gotta really embrace that pain. And in embracing that pain, it's called trudging. You just trudge on. You know, everything's not going great some days, and it's raining or it's cold and windy, and you just have to keep trudging. And people don't like to trudge. It's not like it was in the YouTube videos. So people have to kind of get real. And it wouldn't be so bad, but people quit their jobs. They rack up $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in credit card debt buying backpacks and all this stuff. Maybe the PCT was their first long trail, and that's okay. A lot of people, it's their first trail. They do great, probably better than I ever could. So I can remember reading Cheryl Strayed's book, and one comment she made stuck out to me. She said, "Yeah, I'd gone camping with my family, car camping, a ton of time, and had done lots of day hikes. But," she said, "I never really strapped a full backpack on my back, walked out into the wilderness, and stayed there overnight by myself." So that really tells you something. You know, you really have to put on a full backpack, walk out into some wilderness on some trail, put your tent up, and then in the morning walk back. If you still like it, then after that, you know, you keep doing more. But you get the point. People didn't even know they didn't like backpacking, and they never tried it once. So you got to, you know, ramp up to it. If you want to try to do this in one summer, you should walk in the door being pretty good at doing 15 miles a day. Now, I think Dixie from Homemade Wanderlust, she started like 10 miles per day, and that's fine. But my thinking is here she can ramp up those miles, and I believe she was way late going up in this area. So one thought that people could do is when they get up to Trail Pass, maybe get off on just Horseshoe Meadows and go to Lone Pine, and then just flip up to Sierra City. So that way you kind of bypass all the snow and then walk all the way up to the border. And with this way, you're in Washington in August. So it's going to give you the best chance of good weather. Then, you know, after you do the little dance at the border, got to get in the bus and go all the way back down here and do another 450 miles. People don't like that part. And then when you get to the border, you got the option of either coming back to here and then walking down to, say, Walker Pass, or just coming back the next year and doing this section. From here to Walker Pass is 500 miles. The minimum PCT permit is 500 miles, so that would fit really good, and then you finish the entire trail, but in 2 years. So the one part I like about my idea of getting up to here and just flipping past this and going up is that you can start here earlier. It's not so big of a deal to crush miles every day. If you start on just April 1st and bypass this, then you've got time. If you start on March 15th, I mean, it's going to be cold at night, but it's not nothing like going through here or here. So that might be an idea, is that if you're a slower hiker, that you just start just earlier, bypass this. Don't forget about Baden-Powell right here, and just San Jacinto. Those are going to be snowed in because they're at 9,000 feet. But there are trails around that. That might be something you can finish on some other year, where you actually put footprints on both of those mountains. So that's something to consider, is just kind of bypassing this part and starting earlier. So I met some people this summer, and they did the same thing. They got up to here, got off on Lone Pine, then they went up to Ashland, walked all the way back down. By the time they got to Sierra City, the snow was more at bay, so they could kind of go through there quickly. Then they got back on a bus and then drove back up to Ashland, and then walked all the way back up to Canada. So that way you do get to celebrate at the border, but then you're pushing this again. You've got to be here on August 16th some way. So I'm kind of partial to just trying to just flip up to Sierra City, because I trust the Sierras to be beautiful at the end of September way more than I trust the North Cascades to be even passable at late September. So I kind of did some math to kind of work backwards. And if you got to be here, when would you have to start? And it works out to be about June 27th. You'd be at Sierra City, and which puts you back at just Kennedy Meadows at about May 27th. But really, probably, if you're going to do 5 weeks, it'd be like May 15th, and that breaks down to getting to the border here about April 15th or so. But when I get back to you, you're just here like a month early. So that might take you more time. It's very complex. If the Sierras just weren't there, it'd be a pretty easy shot to just walk 123 and just do it. There'd be more people it wouldn't be 12.9%, it would be 50%. So something people can do then is just to figure out and get used to wearing a backpack before you start. So that means putting on a real backpack, not a little just butt pack, but a PCT Southern Terminus full weight backpack, and walk with that as much as you can before you even start. That way you kind of get used to how far can I walk in a day and how long does it take me to do it. So it's fine to do 2 miles per hour, but then you've got to have those goals to get up to 3. And part 2 of that is, what does your backpack weigh? If you walk in the door with a 40-pound backpack, you're not going to be able to do 30s unless you're just some magnificent athlete. So most people who were the stars are carrying about a 10-pound, 12-pound, 13-pound base weight. Maybe some people are doing like 8-pound base weight, and they can do 30s or 35s or 40s. I met a guy on the trail who was doing 35 to 40 last year. That's fantastic. I wish I could do that. And maybe could if I never stopped walking. I just did 25s every day, so you get super used to it. And I mean, not for just 6 months, but every day of the year. But that takes a lot of time, and that's a lot of walking. So people usually don't do that. People have jobs, so the first day is usually from the couch to the trail, and that can be tough. So those are some thoughts I had about this. I hope that's helped someone. Maybe consider section hiking. Maybe do the border to just see Sierra City. Maybe do Sierra City to Cascade Locks the next year. Maybe next year do Washington State. I think people have a much higher chance of achieving success where you do the whole trail and not just get hurt. So that might be something to consider. So I'll see you out on the trail. All right. Bye-bye.